right, Miles, we got to talk about the Houston Texans here for a little bit. Look, this is a team obviously made a lot of massive moves this offseason. Of course, bringing in D'Amico Ryans, everything he's done with the coaching staff so far. And at the top of the draft, obviously drafting Stroud, trading up and getting Will Anderson. But there's one new Houston Texan that is impressing people in a way a lot of people weren't expecting. And I think this is a great sign for the Texans as we get ready and get started with training camp.
Yeah, Nick, I think the Texans have done a really good job. Anytime a team comes as high as the Texans did in the draft, you got to think, well, for next year to be exciting, they have to do a lot of work. And they really did do a lot of work this offseason. And I think one of their moves is proving that it is going to pay off. It's looking really strong starting. Before we get into that, I want to ask the Texans fans today in the comment section below. Very interesting question. Who's the fastest Houston Texan of all time? And we're just talking the Houston Texans here. I don't want to go around, bounce around the league, other teams that may have been involved in the franchise history. Let's go fastest Houston Texan of all time in the comment section below. But Nick, let's get on into it. What do we have today for the Texans?
Yeah, so when we were reviewing the Houston Texans draft class after the draft, obviously Stroud and Anderson were at the top of the list. But one of, I think, their sneakier good selections, who's gotten a lot of buzz already at this point, is center Juice Scruggs out of Penn State. This guy is building a lot of momentum, and there's even more great news involving Scruggs and the Texans. In fact, Mize, if you want to go ahead and throw up the report we found from the Toro Times, I will read from it. All right, from the report, the Texans came into the offseason with one goal: to protect the quarterback, and that's exactly what they did by trading for two-time Super Bowl champion Shaq Mason and drafting Penn State guard Juice Scruggs. Here's the big thing. In a recent interview with Texans Wire, head coach D'Amico Ryans offered high praise for the prize rookie. Juice has done a great job with just being consistent in there. Seems like a vet already with the consistency that he operates at. Miles, that's really important. And one of the things to understand for those of you who aren't familiar with the center position, you hear about it all the time with the talking heads. It's the quarterback of the offensive line. But the reality is what the center does is very similar to the quarterback in the respect that he actually identifies the defense, the front seven, the guys in the box that the offensive line has to react to in their blocking schemes, whether it's in the pass game or the run game. You need to have a guy in that position that has veteran experience, or in Scruggs' case, handles him like a veteran. Because otherwise, the other four guys on the offensive line, especially veterans like Mason, won't have any confidence if he doesn't handle himself the right way. And having everyone linked together, have confidence in each other on that offensive line will be absolutely crucial for this Texans team. And look, they were not good at the O-line last year. Obviously, that's why they got in Mason. They brought in Mason. Obviously, that's why they brought in Scruggs. But the fact that he's already handling himself like a veteran, I think is a great sign that he's off to a phenomenal start. And they're going to need him to be Miles. But I think this kid has a chance to be a special player right out the gate.
Yeah, Nick, I think it was a perfect selection for a team because when you bring in a quarterback, obviously you want to shore up the offensive line. Davis Mills got pestered last season, all season. He got hit a bunch of times. So when you bring Stroud in, you want to start him off on a good foot and get that O-line built. Obviously, Larry Tunsil, an excellent player for the Texans. They go ahead, they get Mason in there, and now they have Scruggs at center. Not to discount Titus Howard, really good at the right tackle position as well. Solid player there. But having Scruggs at center, I think, is going to be the key here because I have always heard this mantra, Nick. You can hide two holes in the offensive line, but you can't hide three. So I think there was three-ish holes on that offensive line, but now they have four now with the addition of Scruggs and Mason. Solid O linemen, so there really shouldn't be too many weak spots on this offensive line. I think it was a really big move, adding a guy like Juice Scruggs. But that is the key here. What D'Amico Ryans had said, I think, is really what struck me, is the consistency, the veteran-like consistency, and it's like he's been there forever. He comes in and day out. He knows what he is supposed to do, knows his job, and I think that's the key to the offensive line is consistency because when you have this many new offensive linemen, that's what it's going to be at the beginning of the season. It takes time to gel. It takes time for them to, get all on each other's wavelength so they know what everybody else is doing. But from what I've heard from this report, what D'Amico Ryans has been saying, it seems like he's already there. It seems like they're very consistent, and they're already showing that they're all on the same wavelength, especially Scruggs. He seems like he gets it. He knows what is supposed to be asked of him. So I'm really excited to see how this goes during the season.
And it just won't be huge for the offensive line. It'll be huge for Stroud, who, look, we know it's a quarterback battle on paper between him and Mills, but barring something completely wild, it's going to be Stroud's job, right? You don't take a guy where you picked him in the draft with his approach, his demeanor, his talent, and not play him very early on in his career. But one of the things that Stroud's going to really have to rely on is a veteran presence at center. Obviously, he's not going to get it within his fellow rookie in terms of how it looks like on paper, but by all accounts, according to Ryan's, Scruggs is handling himself like a veteran. That'll be a huge boost for Stroud as well, because one of the things you don't want to have happen is you have an inexperienced quarterback, Stroud, and maybe a center who wasn't handling himself like a veteran. You'd have all kind of issues with protections, and just the offense would become just a disaster. Having a guy like Scruggs handling himself like he's already been there before will allow Stroud to focus much more on his side of the house, which he's going to need to, obviously being a rookie. So no matter how you look at it, this is a much improved offensive line because of additions like Scruggs, but it'll also help Stroud's development as well. This is a win-win situation for the Houston Texans.